Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound cast. You are joined by your host, the world's okayest blue belt in jiu-jitsu, Vince, and I am joined with a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. The same man whose very idea it was to make this podcast in the first place, the one, the only, the living legend himself, Rick. Say hi, Rick.
Hey, everybody, back in the saddle. Glad to be here, ready to break down some fights.
Man, the fights last night were really, really fun to watch. And I just have to say real quick, I am officially terrified of Carlos Ulberg.
I don't blame you. That man is scary. He has the touch of God in those hands.
I mean, just seeing him walk out, like some fighters just have an aura. The way they walk, the way they carry themselves, just their physical look, the expression they have in their face. And sometimes they just give you an aura. And as soon as he walked out and I saw him, squaring off across the cage from Dominic Reyes, just the very look of this dude, before he even swung his first swing, I was like, this dude looks very, very scary. And then when I saw what he did in the match, it made it even scarier. And we've been saying for a little while that the light heavyweight division is a little shallow. It's not super shallow. It's top heavy, but it's bottom light. And I think we need some more contenders coming up. A handful of weeks ago, I was praising this guy Zhang Mingyang, saying that he was going to be the next big thing, and that ended up falling through when he got knocked out by Johnny Walker. But I think this guy actually might be the real deal, and I think if you're in the top of the light heavyweight division, you really need to keep your eyes on Carlos Ulberg, because what he did to Dominic Reyes is the thing of nightmares.
Absolutely. You're talking about a guy who threw 17 strikes, landed 11, and that's all it took. And if you notice watching that, when you're watching the fight, of course, it's a dance, right? You see these two guys who respect each other's power. Both are very capable knockout artists. But, once they actually start to engage, it didn't take long to separate the men from the boys. Carlos Ulberg is the real deal. We're talking about a guy who's 14-1, 9 knockouts, and a guy that I do believe will be next in line after Ankalaev Pereira. If Pereira wins, I don't think there will be a trilogy, because Big Ankh doesn't have a big following. I just don't think people are that interested in watching that fight a third time. And so regardless of who wins, I think he's next in line. I think he's getting that title shot.
Yeah, one thing that really struck me as a very impressive by Carlos Ulberg is how well he moves for a man who is fighting at 205. So he walks around probably a lot heavier than that. He's probably like a small heavyweight. I guess hence the name light heavyweight. But the way he moved did not look like a light heavyweight. The way he glided and danced around the ring in his movement to get in and out of the pocket, his speed, when it comes to his hands and his footwork and everything, he looked like a welterweight. I was thinking, he moves around like a middleweight, but a minute in, I was like, no, this guy moves more like a welterweight. He moves way too fast for a light heavyweight, but he punches like a heavyweight. So keep your eyes on this guy.
He's got the power and he's got the footwork. When you look at Pereira, for example, he has the power, and of course he's excellent at kickboxing, but he just seems a little stiff. I think Ulberg could give either Ankalaev or Pereira a big test, and it reminds me a lot of like Tom Aspinall. When you watch Aspinall at the heavyweight division, people say, "Wow, this guy doesn't move like a heavyweight." That's Ulberg. He doesn't move like a light heavyweight, and that's a big advantage for him, I do believe.
Right? Yeah, just the way he moves in general is just. Like when you compare him to Alex Pereira, like as good as Pereira is, he's very linear. He's straightforward. Right. He just comes at you like a bulldozer, right? Where this guy, he just moves around. He creates angles. He gets in and out. He stays very mobile. Like I said, he doesn't fight like a light heavyweight, not even a middleweight. Maybe like a fast middleweight or a welterweight is how well he moves. So you get someone that moves that fast, that punches as hard as he does. This guy's scary. And the only thing that's kind of taken away from his mystique a little bit, it's kind of crazy just how having a 0 in the losses column completely changes people's perspectives on you overall. And he only has 1 loss. And I looked at his 1 loss. It was early in his UFC career. It was back in 2021, which I know doesn't sound like that long ago, but it was his first official fight in the UFC, not counting his Contender Series fight, and he just got caught. It was a fight of the night performance, but he ended up getting caught by a guy who has 14 wins, 10 of them by KO. So, a KO artist, a guy who sometimes fights at heavyweight, currently fights at heavyweight, is a guy who caught him. So things like this happen. So I don't think that people need to really worry about looking at that one loss on his record, because at the end of the day, he still has 13 wins and 8 of them by knockout, 1 of them by submission. So this guy's a serious contender. His kickboxing record, 21-2, 19 wins, 12 by knockout. I'm sorry, 19-2, 21 fights overall, 12 by knockout. So yeah, this guy's a legit fast, scary knockout artist. And I think that the top 5 in the light heavyweight division really need to keep their eye on this guy, because he's going to be coming at him pretty quick.
Well, and even if you look at the way he won the fight yesterday, it's the basic 1-2 combo, the left-right. But it was slick because he hits him with the left, slides to the right, creates the angle just like you were speaking about, and knocks him out with that right hand. Right. I mean, that's just not something you really see out of light heavyweights. That mobility, it's tremendous. And to be able to do that to Dominic Reyes, who I picked to win that fight, and really kind of make it look easy. First round knockout, effortless. Like I said, 17 total strikes thrown, 11 landed, and it was over. And I think he's there. Worst case, he has one more fight before he gets a title fight, but I really don't see it that way. I think Ulberg will be, UFC 328 or so in a title fight against the winner of Ankh-Pierre.
I could see it. I'm all for it. I wouldn't be surprised if they look at the winner of Yuri versus Khalil Roundtree, which we'll talk about later. It wouldn't surprise me if the winner of that fight gets another title shot, but maybe not. It kind of depends, because they both have lost already to Alex Pereira. So It wouldn't surprise me if UFC looks at those guys, but also wouldn't surprise me if Carlos Ulberg gets it. At the very least, those are the 3 names that are next in line, period. I don't think there's anyone else that you could.
I think it really just depends on who wins this title fight at 320, because obviously Pereira has fought the guys fighting, next week in Yuri and Khalil. Thank you, Khalil Roundtree. So they don't necessarily want another rematch. They certainly don't want a trilogy with Yuri. And so, but if Ankh wins, that creates different scenarios. Right, so it'll depend on who wins, I believe.
Yeah, because Ankh hasn't fought those guys yet, so it gives more match opportunities. So I guess we'll see. I think if Pereira wins, it should be Ulberg next. If Ankh wins, there's options, so we'll just have to see how things play out. I think no matter what happens, though, it's going to lead to a very exciting future light heavyweight title fight between the guys that we just mentioned. Some combination thereof is going to be really exciting. And do you know what else is really exciting, Rick?
Tell me.
We're on YouTube.
Oh, watch out. That's what I'm talking about.
We are officially on YouTube. So the thing is, I wasn't really thinking we need to be on YouTube, because that's more of a video platform and we're an audio-only podcast. But I know a lot of people are saying you can still have your podcast put onto YouTube, and it's just it'll be a picture of your choosing. In our case, it was just the podcast logo. And I was like, maybe we'll do that later. I wasn't really sure if we would get a huge following on YouTube, but whenever I go around on the streets and I'm talking to people at the gym or at work and all these other places, and I'm like, hey, check out my podcast, I have so many people say, yeah, check it out right now. Are you on YouTube? No, not yet. And then sometimes I'll tell people the name of my podcast. They're like, yeah, look it up right now. They're like, oh, I can't find it. I'm like, oh, let me help you find it. And I go look, and where are they looking at? YouTube. I'm like, okay, I got to do something here. I got to get on YouTube. So I did it. I went ahead and got us linked up. Every time we post an episode, it's going to automatically push out to YouTube as well. I'm not doing it manually. It's just part of the system. So whenever an episode hits, it's going to hop on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Pocket Cast, all the routine, the typical podcast sites, and YouTube. We are official on YouTube. All of our old episodes that we've recorded up to this point, total of 6, are already online. And this episode and all future episodes will be dropping the same day they drop everywhere else. So we are YouTube ready now.
Really, and y'all know how this works. Y'all know how this works. Like and subscribe. It's the only way we're going to grow. And so please do that. It takes 2 seconds, and it would mean a lot.
Tell your friends. And as this podcast grows, I'm going to continue building on the platform, building probably some type of website where it could link to maybe a merch store. I found that those are actually really easy to set up. I just upload the images, and you could order shirts and stickers and whatever you want off of there. I'm probably going to get myself a shirt pretty soon, because I want to be able to represent the brand when I'm out and about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'll do the same.
And the next fight that we're going to talk about, I was about to talk about representing at my jiu-jitsu gym because, I'm a big lover of jiu-jitsu, and we got to see, I guess you could call it jiu-jitsu. It was a very ugly-looking submission.
You know what it looked like? It looked like the crippler crossface under the throat. I didn't know what to call it, but I was like, this looks like some kind of WWE maneuver.
It was
I've never seen that.
It's a borderline old school camel clutch.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Borderline is right. If he had clasped his hands, it would have been. That's what it looked like.
When I look on Wikipedia, it says submission reverse can opener, which is really, really weird. I know what a can opener is, which is kind of like a guillotine where you're pushing the head down instead of choking down, if that makes any sense. That's what it says on Wikipedia. At first, it was called a neck crank. A can opener is technically a neck crank anyway. It was basically like a rear naked choke, but instead of you actually locking in a choke, you're just pulling the head back where it's kind of torquing the neck. Right. Yeah. So I've been in similar situations. They suck. So, but it is what it is, man. You applied the submission, you got the tap, you get the win. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it only went one round. Urslan, he went rushing in there, throwing a few punches. Crute was able to get the takedown. He ended up getting another takedown. He kind of manhandled him once he had the grappling. And had a good sweep where Urslan ended up on top. He swept him. And then Crute got on top. And he just kind of managed the ground game better than Urslan. I think Urslan wanted to keep it standing. He wasn't able to do so. Crute exposed him. And even though it was ugly, he got in there and finished him off.
Yeah, that was really fun to watch. It was really impressive. Like, whenever they did clinch up, Crute was just in charge the whole time. So it was really, really fun to watch.
Yep, agreed.
And then the next fight we're going to talk about, we'll keep this one brief. We have Jack Jenkins versus Ramon Tavares. And this one was one that went to the judges' scorecards. I don't know if there's really a whole lot to say about it. The judges had a 30-27, 30-27, a 29-28. I don't know what the third judge was smoking because I thought it was a very easy to score 30-27 across the board. I had actually picked Ramon to win this one. I was thinking he'd be able to use his grappling against Jack Jenkins, but Jack Jenkins was able to outstrike him on the feet with his kickboxing. It's very kick-heavy kickboxing, but then also there are moments where it turned into a grappling exchange and Jack Jenkins was getting the better of him on the ground, which really surprised me because if you look at their grappling credentials on paper, Ramon Tavares is a better grappler, but that's not what I saw last night. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say about this match.
So I had a decent amount of notes on this. I'll just run through them real quick for you guys. Highest significant strike percentage in featherweight was Jenkins, and I think that's because a lot of his strikes are kicks. And, of course, it's a lot easier to hit somebody when you're kicking them than it is to punch them. If they're moving their head and they're getting out the way, it's one thing. When you're throwing these leg kicks, especially to the body, even if they're blocking it, they're still absorbing it. They're still going to take some impact. Tavares missed weight, which I always get a little upset when I see that. I mean, these are professionals, and I know they take it very serious. And in the MMA community, it's a big deal if you miss weight.
Right.
Like the Tafa brothers, that one of them missed weight at heavyweight at one point, and it's just like, wait, what are we doing? How do you miss weight for heavyweight? Are you taking this serious or not? But anyway, back to the fight. I did think the second round was kind of a toss-up. I think that might have been your 29-28 round. I think that's where that came from as far as the final decision. But you look at Tavares, who had a couple of different groin strikes. I'm real big on this. Groin strikes, eye gouges, just take a point. Just take a point. I think it'll reduce a lot of this. It gets frustrating when you keep seeing this and they warn them and they warn them and they warn them. It's like, no, man, just take the point. They didn't do that. He got away with a couple of those. And then Jenkins had a crafty takedown at the end of the second round. I think that's where he may have stole that round because I thought Tavares actually was winning the exchanges. But I do believe that takedown at the end of the seconds where he got in there and took it. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. The first and third rounds, I think, were pretty clearly Jenkins. Jenkins had a takedown in the third, attempted a rear naked choke. Tavares got out of it, had control for most of the third round. They get up with 25 seconds left. Jenkins takes him back down, ends on top. I do believe that the aesthetics of that, when you watch a lot of these fights, if they're close or around as close, the guy who's on top at the end, they typically like to give that to that fighter. And anyway, I think that's kind of how the judges saw it. It was an entertaining fight. Jenkins with those leg kicks, though, man, he's lethal. So curious to see where he goes.
I mean, just his kicks in general, because he was mixing them up. He was throwing head kicks, body kicks. But, yeah, it was mostly leg kicks, but just his kicks in general were pretty solid.
Correct. Absolutely. Even when he went upstairs, Tavares blocked a lot of them. But, again, I mean, just because you're getting your hands up doesn't mean they don't hurt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So now, that's what I had on that one.
Now, looking at the next fight on this card, and this is the fight I think we're going to be talking about the most, probably even more than the main event, because there's a whole lot of stuff that happened in this one. Neil Magny versus Jake Matthews. So all of us, if I'm not mistaken, on our predictions had picked Jake Matthews as the winner, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I know I did.
Yeah, and Nostroidamus and I also picked Jake Matthews. I said it was going to be by submission because Neil Magny's losses, the most common way to defeat him is by submission. Jake Matthews has a pretty good submission background. He has a lot of submission wins. On paper, he's a really good submission artist, a really good grappler. So I thought to myself, Jake Matthews is probably going to win this match by submission. Now, I'm going to flash back a little bit. There was a fight. I don't know if it was his most recent fight or maybe second to most recent fight. Neil Magny had a match, and whenever I looked at his record on paper and the other guy's record on paper and their recent fights and how well they've done, that's kind of how I judge on who I think is going to win. I was thinking the other guy on paper looks like he should win, but I said in this fight, I don't know why, but my gut's telling me to go with Neil Magny, even though the other guy on paper looks like he's better in just about every way. And when we watch that fight, Neil Magny gets whooped the first round, barely survives, gets whooped the second round, barely survives. In the third round, ends up getting on top of the guy and finishes him off with elbows, wins by TKO, an amazing comeback. And that was my gut telling me to go with Neil Magny. And I was really impressed with my soothsayer capabilities that I was able to predict something that was like that, where the guy that shouldn't win ends up winning anyway, even though I said he shouldn't win, but he should win anyway, and that's how it played out. And what's crazy is it happened again last night. The only difference is this time I didn't pick Neil Magny. My gut didn't tell me that. But on paper, same thing. I look at these guys, and I look at who they fought lately and how well they've done, wins and losses, and I said that Jake Matthews is most likely going to win this match by submission. And he clearly won first round, clearly won the second round. But what happened in the third round, Rick?
Third round, Magny with the takedown attempt turned into a guillotine. They got back to the feet. Grappling led to a full mount for Magny, and he darced him up. It was impressive. But I don't know. That's jumping all the way to the end there. This fight had a lot of interesting things. And to me, the end of the first round, of course, is the controversial part.
Yeah, that's the part that we're gonna cover. I was wait for the end of this fight, kind of covering the ending before I.
We're gonna go reverse. So
right. So we're gonna Quentin Tarantino it. We're gonna Quentin Tarantino it. We're gonna go back.
We can definitely do it that way. The darce was nice. Magny is very durable. There's a guy who's been in 44 UFC fights now, 44 fights rather, which is ridiculous. Once you start getting north of 40 fights, you have to wonder how much tread's left on the tires. He's 38 years old. He's my age.
In some cases, 30 fights.
Well, of course, yeah. Really, anything north of 30 is you're starting to get to that territory where it's like, is he UFC caliber? Because, of course, they only have the elite of the elite. And, of course, coming off that win. But, man, that's a guy who – you talk about a guy whose game, Neil Magny's game, and that darce choke he pulled off was pretty spectacular. But again, just a guy who's been in a bunch of wars. He's a vet. He knows how to do things. He's crafty.
And he's the comeback king.
He is the comeback king.
Absolutely.
He's the man. So, and again, he's 38 years old. I'm 38 years old. I can't imagine competing. And of course, I haven't been training like he has, but it just gets to a point, man, where you get to a certain age, you're out there against these killers. And you're holding your own still. Nothing but respect for Neil Magny.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about the controversy around this fight.
Yeah. So
it was dramatic.
Let's get into it because I'm watching the fight and there's 1 second left. Again, we talk about buzzer beaters, right? And I'm thinking, man, here's another buzzer beater. And I thought the ref had called it. And apparently the ref changed his mind. But there was a second left when he called it. And then it's like he realized he had messed up. The buzzer goes off. And it's almost like you try to sweep something under the rug, like, I messed up, but we'll just keep it going. He had to even go to the corner and tell the guys, yeah, we're going to keep going. So he's pretty much acknowledging he screwed up, and we're going to try and just rectify it here and let you finish it in the octagon. Better man wins. But yeah, he definitely screwed up. And of course, Neil pops up right after, they thought he was out. It looked like, WWE stuff where the ref goes to hold the guy's arm up and he picks it up and it falls down, picks it up and falls down. It looked kind of like that. Of course, he's not grabbing Neil's arm, but you see Neil's arm, it sticks out and it starts to lower and lower. And then it was like, oh, wait, is he out? And he just made an incorrect decision that he kind of corrected on the fly, so to speak. But yeah, that was wild, man. That was wild.
It was a bad botch by the referee. I think it was very fortunate that we were so close to the end of the round, because let's say there'd have been like 30 seconds left or a minute left even 10 seconds left. If you call it to where you're separating the fighters and they get up, but one guy wasn't out and you're declaring the other one the winner, so you're taking away his submission attempt, but then you're also saving the guy who was getting submitted, and it really puts a damper on the whole match. The fact that there's 1 second left almost gave the ref an out. Like, okay, well, it wouldn't have changed anything because there was only 1 second left. So for those of you who didn't see the fight, Jake Matthews had Neil Magny in some type of, I think it was like a mounted guillotine, and he heard the clack of, there's 10 seconds left, and about 5 seconds or so left, you see Neil Magny stick his arm out, and he was just kind of waving it around. And when there's about a second left, the ref jumps on him and separates him, like he thought that Neil Magny was out. And then as soon as he did that, Neil Magny's like, "What are you doing? No, I'm fine." If there would have been more time left, that match would have ended in a disaster. Probably would have been a no contest, or it would have been like the wrong person awarded the win, which is something we've seen before. I remember seeing that with Robbie Lawler fighting, I think it was Ben Askren, where Herb Dean stepped in because he went to go shake Robbie Lawler's arm and he didn't respond to it. So he's like, oh, he's out, let him go. And then whenever Ben Askren let him go, he just popped up like, dude, what are you doing? I'm fine. And that's kind of the same thing that we saw here. But because there was just 1 second left, and I think the ref realized it wouldn't have changed the outcome, that he was just like, okay, well, looks like you're fine. Let's just continue. And then Neil Magny was able to make the comeback. That would have taken his whole comeback away if the ref would have just called it right there. And I thought that was controversial enough in itself. And I'm like, okay, well, things still played out the way I guess it should have played out, so I guess it'll be fine, but it's still something to talk about on the podcast. And it turns out, right before we started to record, our other member of the podcast, not with us tonight, Roy, pointed out that...
Shout out, Roy,
for bringing this breaking news. The team of Jake Matthews is arguing about the results because of the ref calling him off, and wants to have this match overturned to a no contest. Do you think you'll be able to pull that off? I don't think you will be.
I don't know that we've ever seen that before. I guess that's something I'd have to look into. But, even though that's valid and probably should be the case, I don't know that we're going to see that.
Right.
I don't think we will.
The only time I remember seeing a result overturned and turned into a no contest after a result was out was if there's like a failed drug test or something like that.
PEDs, absolutely.
Right. So it's like a person wins, and not even PEDs. I've seen before, which is drugs in general. Like there's been a few with Nick Diaz, I remember, where he had won by whatever, and then he failed the drug test, so it for marijuana, then it changed to a no contest. So that kind of thing happens. In this case, I really don't know. I almost think it sounds like Matthews' team being a little bitter, because at the end of the day, he was not going to finish that choke with 1 second remaining. Magny was still fine, and Magny came back and won. So I think that's just them trying to erase a loss from the record, because at the end of the day, I don't think that. I don't think it would have changed the result. I know it wouldn't have changed the result of the match. So, but yeah, there's some controversy about it.
Yeah, I will say this, though. Yeah, there is something to be said, though, for Matthews' performance, because, like we've seen before, Tim Elliott was in a fight where they had called it, and he was like, no, I'm still good. And he thought he had won the fight, and he didn't. And they had to continue the fight. And so there's something to the psyche of that, right? So when the fight's over in one's mind, but then it's not, the way you react and come out can be interesting. The second round, he came out and looked really good. He actually put Neil Magny in a mounted triangle. It reminded me of Poirier Holloway 1. It was very interesting. He had the guy's arm up, he's on top of him, and he dominated that round. Matthews came out after he thought he had won, then they said he didn't. Sometimes fighters can be a little pouty. They may not be on their game. there's a mental thing that goes on when you think you've won and then they say you haven't won. And
right.
Anyway, I was impressed with his resolve. I think Jake Matthews he's obviously been around a while, but he showed me a lot. I'm very impressed. I think he's going to continue to do well. Neil Magny, again, he's just a guy who's tough. And I don't know where Neil Magny goes from here. I think he's just kind of a gatekeeper, but yeah, I was just impressed with Matthews' resolve. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Neil Magny is just a really fun to watch journeyman. He really is.
Absolutely.
But who's not fun to watch?
Yes, indeed.
This referee.
Who's that?
This referee. That really was a bad call by that referee. It really was. He shouldn't have stepped in, because if you could look at someone's arm and see if it's limp, Magny's arm was still up, and for him to call it that quick, that's Jim Perdios, Perdios.
I don't recall seeing him. He looks like a new ref.
Yeah, well, that was a big botch on his part, so
I don't know that we'll see him again either.
Maybe not.
Yep.
And then we have one more match to discuss on this main card. We would have two more, but both Taffa brothers, can't seem to make weight or not get sick trying to weight cut.
PFL bound.
Yep. That's crazy that two brothers, same event, both pull out for similar reasons.
Yeah, man. What's going on?
One couldn't make weight, and then one got sick trying to make weight. So
they both couldn't make weight.
Right. This last fight was a little interesting to me. These two guys, let me pull up their names. I got Nolan and Campbell here. Let me get their first names. Tom Nolan, Charlie Campbell. They don't have a lot of fight history, a lot of fight footage for me to follow. But from what I could tell, looking at the little bit of footage I could find on them and looking at their record when it comes to like knockout wins and whatnot, these two guys on paper are strikers. They had very similar records going into it. I think it was like 9-2 and 9-1 or something like that. And they had like 5 and 6 KOs. Very similar on paper. So I said it's probably going to be like a kickbox match, going to probably end in KO, most likely. And ended up being a first-round rear naked choke.
Absolutely. Campbell came out aggressive. I was really impressed with his... Man, he was just punches and bunches. He had a lot of feints. He really seemed to push the pace. Nolan was kind of on his heels. But, Nolan had a well-timed shot when Campbell was coming in on one of his little rushes. Good timing. Ultimately takes his back, gets the hooks in, rear naked choke, textbook, but entertaining. That might have been the most entertaining fight. It wasn't very long, but it lacked no entertainment. So, that was kind of my take on it. It was on the feet until it wasn't. And as soon as it goes to the ground, we find the better grappler. And then, of course, we see what happens.
Yep. So that's it for the main card. We're not going to go through this full prelim, but we'll point out that we had one KO win, one TKO wins. The rest were decisions on the prelims. And on the main card, we had 3 submission wins, 1 decision win, and 1 KO win. But there's also another KO we're going to talk about that has nothing to do with this event, nothing to do with UFC, nothing to do with MMA, technically. It was a boxing match that featured a former MMA fighter. Do you remember a guy named Wanderlei Silva?
I've heard of him before. Yeah, the Axe Murderer.
The Axe Murderer. One of the craziest MMA nicknames I've ever heard in my life. So,
dude's terrifying.
The dude is, I think I read he's 49 years old. Is that right?
Wow. That sounds right.
And he was in a boxing match last night that ended up getting stopped early because of a headbutt. I don't know if it was accidental or not. Wanderlei being Wanderlei, he's a very wild striker. He is not a boxer. He's a Muay Thai fighter who fights very aggressively, but, he's apparently doing boxing now. And he's doing his usual wild man type swinging and ends up headbutting the guy really bad, and the referee separated him. I don't know if the ref was like calling the fight entirely or just doing a stop to action, so I couldn't see like the full fight footage there. But the next thing you know, there's a giant brawl happening in the ring between Wanderlei's team and the other guy's team, and it resulted in one of the random people in the brawl punching Wanderlei Silva in the face and knocking him out unconscious in the center of the ring. And one of the nastiest KOs I've seen in a long time, and it was not even during the actual fight. It was afterwards. It's pretty ugly looking. Did you see this footage?
I didn't see the footage. I do see the results of what happened, though. And man, yeah, he's I've
done.
seen the MRI.
He's completely asleep. Oh, you probably seen the picture of him with like the swollen eye and stuff.
I see that, and then I see where his nose is definitely broken.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So he got clocked good in that, and yeah, not even during.
What's the deal with people that are getting involved when they shouldn't get involved in these fights? People just. It's interesting, right? Because Rampage fought Wanderlei Silva before, and now it's interesting how Rampage's son gets involved in something that he was supposed to be involved, as we know, Raja, but he went obviously too far. And then this is a situation where somebody comes in who wasn't supposed to be there. That's disheartening. You want to see two people compete and then shake hands and walk away. When you see stuff like this, it's that's not right. We don't need that.
Instead, you see a random corner man in a boxing match knocking out an MMA legend in a brawl.
Yeah, not a good look.
Not a good look at all. But hey, that's fight life, man. Fighters are just incendiary personalities. Sometimes these things just happen.
They're a different breed.
That's all of the side topics I had. That is all that I think we need to talk about when it comes to UFC Fight Night Ulberg versus Reyes. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get into next week's event?
No, let's break down 320. It is a monster card.
Absolutely monster card. 2 title fights, 2 very good title fights. Because sometimes you have 2 title fights. It's like, yeah, that's one good title fight, and the other one, This one, right. 2 really good title fights, and just the rest of the fights are just looking really, really good, at least on the main card. So
there's not a bad fight on that main card. It is stacked.
I have the predictions from you, me, and Roy here, and we're in agreement on most of the fights. There's just a couple that we differ on.
Well, what are those, sir? Let's break them down.
Well, let's start with the main event. You got the rematch between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira.
Yep. I have heart over head here. I got Pereira, but I don't know. They said he was 40%. I was reading something this morning. Said he was 40% in his last fight. I don't know how true that is. I've heard a lot of different things that have been said. Broken hand. He was sick. Da-da-da. Who knows how true any of that stuff is? Ankh definitely dominated that fight. I saw a promo where they were trying to hype it up like it was a really good fight. It was not. Pereira was outworked, outclassed in every aspect. That being said, he has the touch of God. So Ankalaev, if he wants to keep pushing the pace, he might walk into one of these traps. It'll be interesting to see the adjustments Pereira makes. Pereira usually pushes the pace himself. Ankalaev, of course, did that himself in this last matchup. But I'm wondering if Pereira is going to invite that in, and maybe he picks up something on tape, or maybe just something from actually fighting him that he's picked up on that he can put in his back pocket to where when Ankalaev rushes him, he has something waiting for him. Maybe he has more feints set up. Maybe he just steps to the side a little bit. Maybe he's been working on a couple different things. But these guys at the top of their game at the elite level, they usually do improve and find weaknesses, and in rematches, they exploit them. That's something I'm looking to see from Pereira.
Yeah, I'm just not really sure if it's going to play out that way. I would like to see it because I think most people would agree that having Alex Pereira as a champion is just more exciting for the division. But that being said, Ankalaev is just really good at what he does. I don't think it'll be exciting, but it wouldn't surprise me if he has basically a repeat or mostly what we saw already play out and he gets a decision win.
Yeah, I don't know who's favored in this matchup, but I would venture to say most people think it's going to look pretty similar. It'll probably be an Ankalaev decision. If he pushes the pace and Pereira can't do anything about it, and if he doesn't make the adjustment, then yeah, I think you could see that. I'm just banking on the fact that Pereira makes the adjustment and, just one hit, that left hook one time, and it's night-night. So we'll see.
Right. So now we move on to the next title fight. We got a guy who just can't seem to do no wrong whenever he's facing an opponent, and that is Merab Dvalishvili. This guy,
Mr. Gas Tank.
Dude, when he fights, it's like, when I look early in his UFC career, he did have one loss, but it's like he has tightened up his game so much since then. Like every fight he got better and better and better to where he got to like his peak level. And since then, it's been pretty much flawless performance after flawless performance. And all three of us, you, me, and Roy, have Merab winning this fight. You tell us why we think Merab's going to win.
Yeah, I just refer to him as Gas Tank at this point. The man has stamina for days. Even in that Umar fight where he did lose the first 2 rounds, I think most people would agree. Third round, he just keeps coming and coming and coming. And I've seen and heard from his trainer, that he's improving in every aspect. He's known for his wrestling, but his striking's vastly improved. Sandhagen is super talented. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. I think he's a top 10 fighter in all of UFC. I know his ranking may not reflect it, but if you just really watch Corey Sandhagen, that man is super duper talented. He gave Umar a good fight as well. But man, Merab's gas tank. He's relentless. Those takedowns, and it takes a lot of energy to perform a takedown or attempt a takedown, but he just keeps going with it. And eventually people just melt. And that's why, in a 5-round fight, Merab comes out victorious. And it may not be the most fun to watch as far as if you're looking for somebody who's going to knock somebody out, you're not going to want to watch Merab. But if you can respect what he does, it's almost like a Chimaev in a way. He's going to go for takedowns and hold you down. Some people find it boring, but you got to tip your cap. I mean, the man just keeps bringing it round after round after round, takedown after takedown. And eventually, I think Sandhagen's going to be another victim. It's just by the end of it, the better man will win. And it's that gas tank, man.
Yeah, see, Corey Sandhagen is really good. He's very well-rounded. He has striking. He has grappling. I don't know if he's like super elite in either, but he's like well above average in both. He is really good, and I think he defeats most people in that weight division. But as you talked about, Merab just has that gas tank. And it's not just the gas tank, because there are other people that are out there probably have very similar cardio. It's also his relentlessness. As we've talked about before with a lot of fighters, like the match we just talked about between Ankalaev and Pereira, the reason why Ankalaev won is because he was the one that's pushing the pace. He was the one that's moving forward and exerting his will on his opponent. And every match that Merab's in, that's what he's doing to everybody. He's the one that's pushing the pace. You do not push the pace on him. You're always going to be on your back foot because he does not stop coming at you, whether he's kind of charging at you and throwing looping punches and setting up takedowns or getting takedowns on you. His grappling is really good. His ground control can be better. There are other people that I could name that have better ground control, like Chimaev and Makhachev and guys like that. But in Merab's case, he doesn't need that, because like you get back up, sure, he's just going to take you down again and again and again and again. And when you're trying to stop it, he's going to be popping you with punches. You go to defend your face from getting punched, and then he's going to take you down again. He just does not stop. When the bell first rings to the final bell, he just doesn't quit. And he's also shown that he's starting to develop more of a finish rate as well. Like he was able to get a choke finish on Sean O'Malley, for example. He dominated him in the first fight, 5 rounds, or I'd say 4 rounds. He dominated 4 rounds, and he kind of let Sean O'Malley win the last round. I think he just played it safe because he knew he didn't really need to win the last one. So it was 4-1. It could have been 5-0 if he chose to. And then in the rematch, he ends up choking him out. I think it was the second round. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but if I recall, it's the second, maybe third round. He ends up choking him out. So it shows that he's still adding to his game. So you take someone who is just completely relentless, just doesn't stop coming at you, whether it's strikes or grappling, and he's continuing to improve. And I think also, is much like to pick on him for being a bit of a caveman, a bit of a dope at times, I think he does have a fairly good fight IQ. Sometimes, I don't know, there's a few times where I've seen him kind of do something that's a little bit dumb, like turning and talking to the corner, being silly. But like when he's
as soon as the Omar fight started,
and also when the Sean O'Malley fight started, the first fight.
Yeah, that's true. Times. Yeah.
But like when he's dialed in and he's going at you, he knows what to do. He knows what you're going to do, and he knows how to react to it. And he just executes his plan, and you just can't stop him. Corey Sandhagen's very good. He is phenomenal. I think he's one of the best 135ers there are, but Merab's just going to ragdoll him like he does everybody else.
Yeah, Merab, he's an elite company. We talk about people who've won a bunch of fights in a row, or where does this guy rank, and this, that, and the other. We're talking about a guy now who is tied with Demetrius Johnson, John Jones, George St. Pierre, Khabib, and Max Holloway for consecutive wins. Those names are the elite of the elite of the elite. And he's right there with them. If he has one more win, if he wins this fight Saturday night, he puts himself only behind Anderson Silva, Islam Makhachev, and Kamaru Usman for consecutive wins. This guy is in rare air. He's kind of come out of nowhere. Of course, we know who he is now. I don't think 2 years ago everybody was talking about Merab. He's earned it. He's gone through the toughest of the tough, and he's put himself in a position where we start talking about all-time greats. Merab's a couple of wins away from being an all-time great. And so I think people need to pay more attention, give him a little bit more respect. Again, maybe his style isn't for everybody, but the man wins. There is no denying his talent. And if he's getting better, he could be, putting himself in a position to be on a Mount Rushmore down the road. So just something to keep in mind. This guy is doing incredible things, and man, I can't wait to watch him fight. I think he wins. I think he wins in convincing fashion because he's just that good. I mean, that man is unbelievable. So I'm looking forward to a big Merab performance.
It's really wild to think about that he is right there in the GOAT conversation, just outside of it, the Mount Rushmore conversation. Because when I get asked that question, names pop up. I don't know if I can narrow it down to just 4, but there's a lot of names that do pop up. Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, as much as I hate to admit it, John Jones, Demetrius Johnson. These are guys who, on paper, when it comes to like their title reigns and their defenses and how dominant they were when they're in their prime, these are the very best in the world. We could probably throw a few other names in there, but I think most people are going to have those. Khabib Nurmagomedov's another one. And to say that this guy is right up there at this level and we're watching him in his prime, in his title run currently, it's wild to think about.
And then think about this. He's in the co-main. That's just how insane this card is. I mean, he's in the co-main event, man.
Yeah, he's going to be fighting. They're going to be fighting right after the fight that I'm most excited for in this card, and that is Yuri Prochazka versus Khalil Roundtree.
Guaranteed banger.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited for this fight. Now, I could go back in time if I would have started this podcast a few years ago, and I am mispronouncing names because I don't know these people yet. I could be talking about this Jiri Prochazka guy.
That's right, the samurai.
The Polish he's Czech or Polish? Hold on,
Czech.
He's Czech.
He's Czech.
The Czech samurai going against Khalil Roundtree.
Yep, interesting dude. They said he was in solitude before he fought Pereira in his last fight. He wanted complete solitude. He was in a dark room for a few days. A different cat, but definitely an elite striker. And this one will be on the feet. I think, people in the know, this is the fight. As much as we talk about Ankh and Pereira and Merab and Sandhagen, and we recognize the greatness of Merab, and we understand the power Pereira has and how great Ankh is. And, man, if you just want entertainment, this is the fight. Yuri and Khalil, they're going to stand there and exchange. Someone's going to sleep. No doubt about it. Now, who it is, we'll see. I think Khalil's the one who's going to pull it off. But you could flip a coin. Somebody's going down, though. That much I do know.
Yeah, this is the fight I'm honestly most excited for. Not because what it means for the future in the division or anything like that, but just from an entertainment standpoint of just a dogfight of a fight. I think this is going to be absolute fireworks. And who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, I got Khalil. And maybe this is a head over heart or heart over head situation, rather. But Khalil's looked strong lately. Even in that Pereira fight, in the title fight, he was up 2-1. He, in the second round, knocked Pereira down, caught him on the side of his head, hit him in the temple, dropped him. I thought it was going to go ahead and finish him right there. Of course, Pereira bounces back up. But a guy who's proven against the elite, he's worthy. He's right there. He's in contention. And with a win, and depending on how Ankh Pereira plays out, I mean, we talked about Ulberg. Roundtree's potentially a win away. Worst case, he fights Ulberg. Winner's definitely going to get a title fight. So whoever wins this fight is right there in contention. Again, the Pereira rematch situation makes it a little different. But if Ankh wins, and I do believe he'll be favored to do so, I think, the winner of this fight puts themselves in a great position as well. So we'll see what Khalil can do. He's got the power. He's an excellent kickboxer. Yuri's proven to kind of be susceptible to getting hit and knocked out. We saw Pereira basically knock him out twice in the second fight. He got knocked out right at the belt the second round. He got knocked out again right at the beginning of the third round, I believe it was. And so he does have a suspect chin a little bit. No shame in getting knocked out by Pereira, joined the club. But I think Roundtree can exploit that. He throws cannons, and that's my pick.
Well, concerning Yuri Prochazka's fight against Alex Pereira, it was the second round. I wouldn't say he was knocked out in the first round, but he was dropped. He was at a bad spot for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't asleep, but he was. Yeah, he would have been a couple punches away from a TKO.
Right,
for sure.
And then it was the second round, 13 seconds into it.
It was the first strike thrown too.
Right, because they just kind of squared up and they're just kind of looking at each other and.
So we're talking back-to-back strikes where he gets dropped.
Right, it's crazy. So I think that just is a testament to how good Pereira is and not so much a knock on Yuri Prochazka, because if you look at Yuri Prochazka's record, He had a few losses. He had a few losses early in his career before he's even in the UFC. Since joining the UFC, only one person's defeated him, and that's Alex Pereira. Granted, it was twice, but still, he's beat everybody else. So Roy and I have Yuri winning this one. It is one of those ones where really we wouldn't be surprised, or at least it wouldn't be surprising to me if it went either way. I'm still going with Yuri in it. One thing,
it's a coin flip,
right? One thing that we could do, and it doesn't always play out, the way that some people might think it would play out, is by looking at common opponents and how well they did against common opponents, and seeing like, well, fighter A dominated B and fighter C barely beat fighter B, then it favors
MMA
A.
man.
But sometimes it doesn't always play out that way, because I look at two different common opponents they've had, and the results are way different. So you have Khalil Roundtree has fought Jamal Hill, and Yuri Prochazka fought Jamal Hill, right? And True. Yuri did a lot better against Jamal Hill than Khalil Roundtree did. Khalil Roundtree won every round, or I think one judge gave like one round to Hill, but it still went to decision, whereas Yuri Prochazka won by knockout. But then you look at their fight whenever they both fought Alex Pereira, and Pereira has dominated second round knockout twice to Yuri Prochazka, but it took 4 rounds for Alex Pereira to take out Khalil Roundtree. So
you got to take into account development as well. And over time, seeing these fighters, sometimes when you get to a certain age, you start going down. But of course, there's people who work their way up.
Right.
You never know where people are in their development, in their career. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind.
Right. I think Khalil Roundtree has shown more improvement overall than Yuri Prochazka has. Like when you go back a few years, Khalil Roundtree was all right. He'd win some, he'd lose some, whereas Prochazka was a lot more consistent. But looking at him today, it could be a little bit different. I think overall, Prochazka's maybe a little more versatile. I think he has some grappling in his back pocket. He doesn't do it a ton, but I do see him get some occasional takedowns. He has a whopping 3 submission wins, but some of the submission wins he has are actually against some pretty good opponents, like whenever he choked out Glover Teixeira, who is a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt. Well, one of his submissions was 2 punches. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at Roundtree here, just to kind of echo your sentiment. He had a streak here going back to 2016 where he had a couple losses. Then in 2017, he had a couple wins. Then he had a no contest. Then it was a win, a loss, a win, a loss, a loss. And now we've seen where he's turned the corner. We're talking about victories by KO over a couple different guys here. Bukauskas, Roberson, then Dustin Jacoby went to a decision. Then he KOs Daukaus. Then he KOs Anthony Smith. He lost to Pereira, but again was winning that fight at one point. He beats Jamal Hill. So we're talking about a guy who's won 6 of his last 7, and his only loss was to the champ. So I do think he's kind of more at his peak than maybe Yuri, but we'll see. Yuri's a guy who has fought the elite of the elite, and to your point, his only loss was to the guy who was wearing the belt. So This is going to be a banger. I cannot wait. This is the feature fight. This is the one that you want to get your buddies who are casuals, have them come over and watch this fight. They're going to enjoy the heck out of it.
Oh, yeah. Like, I have Yuri as my pick here, but I won't be mad or even surprised if Khalil wins this one. It's just, I'm going to just enjoy the fireworks, man. Just however it goes, it goes.
It's a banger.
It's just on paper. I'm putting the check marks next to Yuri, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yep.
All right, so then we got a couple more fights here to talk about. We can probably go through these pretty quickly. We have Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Zalal. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Looks simple enough. Let's see here. Let me pull up the predictions we have on our list. I got it on my phone. Who do you have for this one?
I have Zalal. I got a couple different reasons for this. Emmett is one of my favorites to watch. This is a guy, though, who's lost 3 of his last 4. Now, when you consider the competition, Lerone Murphy, Ilia Topuria, and Yair Rodriguez, no shame in losing to any of those guys. And in fact, Murphy went to decision. Topuria could knock him out. That went to decision. He did get submitted by Yair. But again, I'm a big believer in the age is a big factor. When you're talking about a guy who's 40 years old and lost 3 of his last 4 versus a guy who's 29 years old, that is a massive age gap. And these massive age gaps have proven time and time again in MMA. The younger guy typically wins these if they're evenly matched, or at least somewhat evenly matched. That's the only reason I'm picking Zalal. Emmett, fan favorite. He'll be fun to watch. He could easily knock Zalal out. I think Emmett had one of the greatest knockouts of all time when he KO'd Bryce Mitchell. If you haven't seen that, you should go watch it. It's, in my opinion, top 2 or 3 ever. But I just think the age comes into play. At a certain point, you run out of steam. I think we see him lose 4 of his last 5 after this.
Yeah, I was leaning towards Josh Emmett at first. I also picked Zalal. For the record, Roy has Josh Emmett. I was leaning towards Emmett because I've watched his last handful of fights. I saw where he's lost, but I also saw his wins. His wins look really good when he does win. But then when just like you, I looked at the ages, and I'm like, okay, that does, play a big factor into things. Side note for my jiu-jitsu buddies that are listening, that's the reason why you're beating me is because I'm old. It's not because you're actually better technically. It's because I'm an old man. You're bullying a geriatric, so thank you for that. Anyway, yeah, there's an age gap here, and also Zalal is on a 7-fight win streak, and it's the big difference here when I look at Josh Emmett. He is, let me pull up his record. He's
19-5.
Yeah, he's 1-3 in his last 4. Again, who he's lost to some really good fighters. Also, look at common opponent Calvin Kattar, or is it Cater? And it was Josh Emmett won by split decision, whereas Yusuf had unanimous decision. I know that's not really enough to really put a stamp on things, but it's it's little bits of data here and there that you pull out of all this. So I just think overall I'm seeing more consistency from Yusuf. And I think he's younger, he's hungrier, and I think that is going to favor him. But again, Emmett he's a crafty veteran, kind of like we were talking about Neil Magny earlier. Don't always count the old guy out. They could always pull out something, and get a out of nowhere win. So this isn't one I'm super confident in, but I am leaning towards Zalal for sure.
To be able to go the distance with Topuria and Murphy, that says a lot. Win, lose, or draw, that says a lot. To not get knocked out by Topuria when you're standing there, that fight was a stand and bang fight. Emmett's super durable. I mean, he's one of my favorites, like I said, but I don't know. I just think he's on the downside of his career. I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for him, but I don't know, man. These young up-and-comers, they're putting him in a spot to take the shine from Emmett. We see this a lot in the UFC. Dana White's big on that. Here's a guy that doesn't have a big name, but you put him on a mega big card and you put him against a big name like Emmett and he gets a win, he gets to steal some of that shine. That's what I think will happen here.
Right. So that's what they're expecting to happen, at least.
Correct.
We got one more on the main card that we're going to talk about. We don't need to break down all the prelim fights. We got one more, and hope I'm saying this right. Abusupian Magomedov. I know I got Magomedov right. Versus Joe Pyfer. This name, Abusupiyan. You see why I'm always messing up these names, man. But why is there that many letters in that name? There's no excuse for that.
I'm just glad you're the one announcing who's fighting because it's entertaining.
Right. But I looked at it and I played it in my head and I thought to myself what sounds right. And I thought of a few different ways. And I didn't go look up and have someone say his name out loud for me to get it down right. But it looks like it should be Abusupiyan. So I'm going to go with it. Abusupiyan Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer. And if I'm not mistaken, do we all three have the same winner on this one? Who do you have on this one?
I have Joe Pyfer, no doubt.
All three of us have Joe Pyfer. And this is one I was a little torn on. Pyfer's looked really good lately. He's been on fire. He's rounding.
Yeah.
His wins, I mean, not only is he winning, but how he's winning. Like, I think he did have one recently that was somewhat close, but the other ones are just, he's
a wood chipper, man. He's running through people. He's won 7 of his last 8, 5 by KOs.
Right.
And he's a guy. Here's a guy, I mean, a lot like Emmett, a lot like basically everybody on this card, except for maybe in the co-main, the smaller guys, Merab and Sandhagen. He has that knockout power. He's a guy that, again, you want people that maybe don't watch a lot. They're going to want to watch Joe Pyfer. Those fights are always entertaining. And, man, again, we talk about the touch of God. This guy puts his hands on you, and you could easily go to sleep. I like watching him. That's why I'm picking him. I don't have a whole lot on Magomedov or Magomedov, but Joe Pyfer's just fun, man. And he's really coming into his own. I think he has a statement win here. He knocks him out.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is going to be a really fun card to watch because this will actually be the first time we get Roy and Rick together, if they show up, that is. Let's watch these fights together.
I'll be there, sir.
We'll have the full podcast crew for the Ground and Pound cast together watching these fights, and then we'll be sure to, the following Sunday, break down this card, break down the results, and what we think is going to happen with the winners and all that fun stuff. You know how we do it here.
You know how we roll.
That's how we roll in the Ground and Pound cast.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait to be part of it. Can't wait to be at your house, man. Take it in, enjoy it. It's going to be a good time. And we're going to break it down. It's going to be entertaining. And it'll be fun to have all three of us on the pod together too. I'm looking forward to that as well.
And when you show up, I have official Ground and Pound cast stickers for you, so you can take them back to your hometown and give them out to everybody to help support our show. And everybody who has been supporting our show up to this point, thank you so much. I've had a lot of friends reach out to me. They've been telling me they've been listening. They've given me some feedback. I put a big stack of stickers on the counter at my jiu-jitsu gym. I come back a few days later, there was one left. People are interested, and I'm loving every bit of this. So thank you for everybody that's tuned in and helped support us and told your friends about us and all that fun stuff. I see we have a few reviews on some of the platforms. Apple Podcasts, for example, has so far a perfect 5-star rating. So thank you for everybody who has reviewed our podcast to help boost those numbers. We're going to continue trying to find new ways to improve, make the show better, get more comfortable talking about things, and find new things to talk about. If we ever come across any lulls between events, like, we don't have any fight nights or pay-per-views upcoming, we're going to have other things that we want to talk about just to keep things interesting, as we could all discuss various MMA topics, just have fun discussing this stuff. And I think so far we're starting off pretty strong, and we have so many ideas to keep things rolling strong, and it's going to continue building as long as you people keep supporting us the way you are. So thanks.
Tell a friend to tell a friend, subscribe and like, and let's do it again next week, man.
All right. Anything you want to say as we sign off?
Nope. Just ready for this fight to happen. Ready for the fights to happen. 320 fight card of the year.
And make sure, whatever you do, don't get in a brawl in a boxing ring and end up getting knocked out like Wanderlei Silva did.
Yeah.
Getting knocked out after the fight by a random person not even in the fight is almost as embarrassing as fighting in power slap.
Almost.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We will see you all next week as we review this UFC 320. So we will see you all then. Thank you for tuning in.
Later.